Joining us now as we do our Missouri Orthopedic Institute segment, Jacob Linn is with us now. He is the new director of MU Healthcare's Human Performance Institute, or those of us that know call it the HPI. Does it sound more important if you call it the HPI?
It rolls off the tongue a little bit easier.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, you can get that microphone right on up there next to you. It does move around with you, so you got that. Being the director of HPI, what does everything encompass for you now?
So most of my job is coaching our coaches. We run a number of different services, some towards the patients that come to us through the hospital system. But we have a heavy hand in the kind of the long-term athletic development of the youth here in our community. And then we run quite a few different general population classes. So your standard fitness center type of responsibilities, trying to help people be healthier, get stronger, look better in a swimsuit type of thing.
Okay. All right. And when I got this email from Jen, who's now in charge of all of us for this particular offering, rock steady boxing, yoga for cancer people undergoing cancer treatments, specialized training, speed training, vertical jumping, train many of the current former MU athletes, especially during the off season. So, okay, rock steady boxing for Parkinson's.
Yes, that's an excellent class. It's actually one of our more full times during the day. So it's a kind of like a high intensity interval type of training environment where we get to do boxing, kickboxing. But people who have Parkinson's really benefit from that type of training. Gets the blood moving, the targeting that's involved with boxing, hitting that bag as it's moving around, the vocalization, moving throughout the room to different bags. That all helps with some of the symptoms and with the progression of the disease.
How did you figure out that this would help?
Well, it actually came to us through some of the therapists at MOI. They had some family members who had been affected by Parkinson's later in their life, and they learned about it just through some of the travels. The headquarters for Rocksteady is actually up in Indiana or Indianapolis, I believe, and just actually kind of stumbled into a class whenever they're up there for some of their other PT clinic conferences, and the relationship just kind of grew from there. So yeah, it's been a really impressive thing. Like the people who come in and work out in that class, they really get after it, and you see some pretty amazing things happen in their lives.
Wow, that is pretty awesome, man. That is over at the MU Healthcare's Human Performance Institute, or the HPI. Jacob Linn with us here. He's the director of that, but also athletic trainer, and you had spent some time with the women's basketball team with head coach Robin Pynchon and all of that. And we've got camps starting up. And I know there's been some basketball camps that have gone through the area the last couple of weeks, but for athletes getting back into camp, I know the collegiate environment is a lot different because you had spring ball, then you had summer conditioning, and you roll right into fall camp. So they're in shape.
Yes.
The high school kid, maybe not, because it's been a summer off, hanging out at the pool, doing all the rest of that stuff, and boom, you're right back into it. So the things that I want to talk about here today with you is getting ready for camps. And obviously the first thing is in today it's sunny out, it's mid-80s, so it's not terrible, but a couple weeks ago it was brutal. So hydration.
Yes.
First and foremost, the hydration aspect of things. How do athletes get prepared for that? Because I can remember from the days that I played, if you're thirsty during the game, it's too late.
Yep.
So what's a good time frame to begin that hydration process?
So you want to just make sure that you have a good hydration habit throughout the day. At a minimum, us normal people that aren't training in the heat, you need to be drinking 8 cups a day, which is about 64 ounces. So if you have one of those big Nalgene bottles, it'd be 2 of those. Okay. If you're an athlete that is training heavily for multiple hours a day out in the heat, you probably need to be consuming about 24 cups, so 192. That's a little over a gallon of water per day. So having 8 to 16 ounces of water at every meal as you drink throughout the day, just making sure that you have that water intake. But then a really great routine that we preach is kind of a 4-step process. So before practice starts, you have drank maybe about 16 ounces of water as you're getting suited up. You're starting that hydration process early. During practice in the heat, about every hour you need to consume about 20 ounces of fluid at a minimum. And then with that, you have like a good source of carbohydrate and electrolytes. So that sounds familiar, right? That's a Gatorade, 20 ounce Gatorade.
Yeah. That's right. You guys are a Gatorade school. Got to be careful about that
absolutely.
one. Yeah, there are others out there, but
yes, sports
Gatorade.
Drink, carbohydrates and electrolytes. So that's kind of what you want in there. And then after you get done training, you want to continue that hydration process. So about another 20 ounces of that sports drink, and then ideally you're actually including a source of protein with that to kind of start the recovery process with the muscle. And then after the practice, after you're out of the heat, you're back in the air conditioning, you're cooling down. Restart the 8 to 16 ounces every time you eat, because you're eating multiple times a day. So trying to get that gallon every single day. Make sure that you're spacing it out all day long, so you're not having to get up 4 times every night to use the restroom, and then just make sure that you're hydrating and getting the good carbohydrates and electrolytes during.
But it's important to get it started right, because it's it becomes very difficult to go backward in time and get it fixed from that standpoint.
Exactly. Yep. Okay. We have there's chronic dehydration that actually a lot of our athletes walk around dehydrated anyway. So making sure that's not an aspect, and then you have the acute dehydration that happens out in the heat. So both those things you got to take care of it, but you got to set that base right before you even hit the field. As
an athlete, how do I know I'm hydrated?
Well, body weight's a great indicator, right? You stepping on that scale once or twice a day. If it fluctuates a lot, your body weight doesn't change that much throughout the day, right?
Okay.
And then just tracking the color of your urine whenever you hit the bathroom. If it's starting to become fairly yellow, you're kind of in a bad spot. You want it to be more clear. So very, very light.
You don't want it looking like the gold of Mizzou Black and Gold.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. Definitely shouldn't look like Coke. That's for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Probably not. That's indicative of more or Mountain Dew. You definitely don't want it look like a Mountain Dew. So clear.
Yes.
Okay.
As clear as possible.
Okay. And are there other things that you can do? Because I can remember back when you'd hit that massage therapist and they go, "Oh, you haven't been drinking enough," as they're working through the musculature.
So we actually used to say that to the athletes at Mizzou all the time, is if you get dehydrated, you got beef jerky muscles. It's hard, they're stiff, they tear really easy if you visualize what beef jerky looks like coming out the package. So you can tell whenever you're doing massage on somebody, whenever you're doing some of the foam rolling or the stick rolling, that muscle is more firm, it's more toned up. That's generally not a good thing if you're trying to go out and run at top speed. So we also tell the athletes, if you're losing about 2% of your body weight, so if you're a 200-pound athlete, that's 4 pounds right there in water. Then you're starting to see some of the signs of dehydration. Obviously, you've probably already been thirsty, but your heart's starting to work harder. You're actually starting to lose performance. You're probably starting to feel some flushing, maybe some lightheadedness. So it doesn't take much.
So we're moving now from dehydrated on into heat-related issues.
Yep.
Okay.
You can get there pretty quick if you're not staying up on that hydration.
What's that what are the safeguards? I mean, we talk about this. I know Maryland ran into all kinds of trouble with it last year, and you see these heat-related deaths early on in practice for football. What are some of the safeguards that coaches and parents, athletes need to have on hand and need to be aware of?
Well, I mean, I guess one of the best safeguards is just preparation. I know we're kind of at that point where it's almost already too late for that coming into camp, but you need 2 to 4 weeks to kind of acclimate to the heat. So getting out there, starting to do some light conditioning, building it up, make it more intense as camp starts to approach. But it's better to be used to it. Especially if you're a big athlete, like most of these guys that have these heat-related illnesses are big. They're the lineman type of build guys, like a lot of body weight, a lot of body mass to cool off. Obviously the hydration, but making sure that you have water on the field. Some of those cooling fans are excellent. You see those on the sidelines with Mizzou all the time. The big fans that are blowing like a mist.
Right.
It gives a cool spot, but also just taking breaks at certain points throughout practice. I mean, it used to be, water made you weak. Taking breaks as you went along, that was a sign of weakness. So just making sure that you have things built into practice and training that are going to give your body a chance to kind of cool down and regenerate before that next hard bout.
What are you looking for as a trainer? You're going through that line, and these guys have been, or even the ladies have been out there and they've been practicing because you got soccer going on now too. What are some of the things that you're looking for that the heat is becoming an issue with the athlete?
We look at body language a lot.
Okay.
If they're drenched in sweat, that's probably another indicator they're losing a lot there. But a lot of times that I think that a kid is displaying some lack of mental toughness. It's maybe they're getting ground out with that heat. So just kind of really paying attention to what their body language is displaying, kind of what they're telling you, and kind of the look and feel, the sweat rate, flushing in the face. They need to be responsive to start making mental mistakes that could be indicative.
Lack of coordination.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dehydration affects your brain, and that processing of the information on the field can start to go down the drain if you start getting into those end stages of dehydration before.
Okay. And some of those heat related. So if they start acting like puppies out there, you got a problem.
Yep,
get them in, get them cooled down. Ice tubs, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Get those big ice troughs out there close to the field so you can dump somebody in that if you really need to.
Okay. All righty. Jacob Linn with us here. He's actually the director of MU Healthcare's Human Performance Institute, or HPI. The concussion thing, we have talked about this. I know when I was going back and forth with Jen on scheduling this here, she said, well, that's a separate topic. It can be a very separate topic. But it's also important to note as camps are getting started. I know Missouri will start on Friday. That's tomorrow. You've got the high school camps are getting going here for football. So as the parent is bringing their athlete to camp, and soccer is part of this as well, or cheer camp, any of that stuff, what are some of the things that they need to be aware of for that baseline concussion? I know you guys had a free health screening a couple weeks ago, and part of that was concussion baseline testing. How advisable is that? And is that something that the parents should always have on hand?
That's hugely important, in my opinion. Just making sure that if some sort of contact does happen to the head, you have something to measure back against. It's the same as any other type of kind of pre-athletic physical type of test. You want that baseline ahead of time so you can tell if a person is damaged or if they're back and ready to play again. So that's hugely important. Balance can be affected. The processing of information can be affected. Vision can be affected. It might not be safe to drive a vehicle afterwards. So, there's a lot of other things outside of just what happens on the field that could be affected by that.
How do you, as a trainer, and kind of translate that now to as a parent, how do you differentiate between we've got a heat issue versus we've got a concussion problem?
Oh man, that's a tough one because a lot of the symptoms are the same.
Right.
You can have the nausea, the vomiting. It can affect your sweat rate. All those kind of those autonomic systems that happen outside of your control in your body can be affected by that. So, you might want to
flip a coin.
Yeah, you might want to entertain both, and immediately kind of activate some of your emergency services and talk to your doctor if you suspect either one of those issues, because neither one are worth messing around with or delaying.
Yeah, and the reason I brought that up is because it is hot outside, and because they're going to be in pads and helmets, and because you've got the helmet, your largest radiator of heat is going to be covered up.
Absolutely.
So you've got that as a concern. In general, though, for concussions, what are some of the markers that parents need to be aware of as their athlete comes home from soccer practice, comes home from cheer practice or football practice?
Yeah, so there's a lot of symptoms. Headache, any type of feeling of pressure in the head. Obviously loss of consciousness is the big one. If you get knocked out, you probably got a problem. Amnesia surrounding the event. A lot of times you'll take that shot, get your bell rung, and you don't remember it at all. Ringing in the ears, obviously the nausea and the vomiting, slurred speech, any type of delayed response. Part of the concussion baseline is you ask them questions about, them and their life, some basic math questions or just recall. And if that is delayed, that's a symptom right there. Fatigue. A lot of times people have that. It's a huge stressor to your body. Your body's pretty damaged. So, that'll be a pretty clear symptom as well.
And light sensitivity is another one.
Absolutely. Yeah. Similar to like a migraine.
Okay. All right. Jacob Linn with us here. Used to be the athletic trainer with Mizzou women's basketball. He's now the new director of MU Healthcare's Human Performance Institute, or HPI. Their during season Saturday clinics. We'll talk about that more as we get closer to it. But for the Human Performance Institute, how do people get with you, get involved in some of this? Whether it's Rocksteady boxing for Parkinson's patients or yoga for cancer patients.
Yeah. So our website is muhumanperformance.com. probably the two best ways to get a hold of us is when we have a specific email through the hospital system. That's just muhumanperformance@health.missouri.edu. And then our phone number is just 573-777-4417. So we have people manning our front desk all the time. We also do have an Instagram feed that you can direct message us on. That's at MU Human Performance. So it's all kind of the same. Pretty easy to remember.
All right.
But any of those routes will get you in contact with one of us or one of our trainers.
All right. That's Jacob Linn. Again, he's the new director of MU Healthcare's Human Performance Institute, HPI. Information there. It is, again, through MU Healthcare. And, again, appreciate the time. This, it can't be overstated how important knowing about the hydration, the concussions, all that stuff as we get into camps, because that first one from Missouri will hit tomorrow, and there are going to be guys out there who are going to, man, I wish I'd have drank more water.
Yeah, absolutely. It happens fast.
Yep. All right. Jacob, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
The Closers on News Talk 1240 KLIK and News Talk 1400 KFRU.